Good evening. Welcome to Planning and Zoning Commission for January 15th, 2026. At this time, I would like to call the meeting to order. The commissioners who are present for this meeting are at City Hall. We also have staff from the city attorney and the city clerk's office, as well as the city planning department. If you're joining us on Zoom this evening, we can see that you are here. You may observe the meeting. However, your ability to be seen on screen and talk will be muted. During the public testimony portion of the meeting, you will be unmuted and then be able to comment. Please note that we cannot take questions until the public testimony portion of the meeting. If you have a process question during the meeting, please email cityclerk@meridiancity.org and they will reply as quickly as possible. If you'd simply like to watch the meeting, we encourage you to watch this streaming on the city's YouTube channel. You can access it at meridiancity.org/live. With that, let us begin with roll call. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Rust,
Here.
Commissioner Sandoval,
Present.
Commissioner Stoll,
Here.
Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Perot,
Here.
Chairperson Lorcher.
Here. The first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. There are no changes to tonight's agenda. Could I get a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and second to adopt the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which includes to approve the meetings of the joint meeting of the Meridian City Council and Planning and Zoning Commission on December 16th and approve the minutes of the December 18th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Could I get a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, I would briefly like to explain the public hearing process. We will open each item individually and begin with the staff report. Staff will report their findings on how the item adheres to our comprehensive plan and our unified development code. After staff has made their presentation, the applicant will come forward and present their case and respond to staff comments. They will have 15 minutes to do so. After the applicant is finished, we will open the floor to public testimony. Each person will be called only once during public testimony. The clerk will call the names individually of those who have signed up on our website in advance to testify. You may come to the microphones in chambers or you'll be unmuted on Zoom. Please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to address the commission. If you've previously sent pictures or a presentation of the meeting, it will be displayed on screen and our clerk will help you run that presentation. If you've established that you're speaking on behalf of a larger group, like an HOA, where others from that group will allow you to speak on their behalf, you will have up to 10 minutes. After all those who have signed up in advance have spoken, we will invite any others who wish to testify. If you wish to speak on a topic, you may come forward in chambers, or if on Zoom, press the raise hand button, or if you're only listening on the telephone, please press *9 and wait for your name to be called. If you're listening on multiple devices, such as a computer and a phone, please be sure to mute those extra devices so we don't experience feedback and we can hear you clearly. When you are finished, if the commission doesn't have any questions for you, you will return to your seat in chambers or be muted on Zoom and no longer have the ability to speak. And remember, we will not call on you a second time. After all the testimony has been heard, the applicant will be given a chance to come back up for another 10 minutes to respond. When the applicant is finished responding to questions and concern, we will close the public hearing and the commissioners will have the opportunity to discuss and hopefully make final decisions or recommendations to City Council as needed. With that, we are going to open item number H 2025-0016 to continue the Farrington Hills Heights subdivision at Pine and Atkins for a rezone preliminary plat and a development agreement modification. And we will begin with the staff report.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, good evening. So yes, this item was continued. Oh, here, let me get that pulled up first. This item was continued from the December 4th hearing date. And during that December 4th hearing date, you guys gave the applicant direction to remove the open space to allow for larger building lots to accommodate some single-story homes within the development. The applicant did revise their plan to lose an additional lot. This is a comparison of the two. Previous one on the left is the one that you guys heard on the December 4th, and the right is the current proposal that they have. So they did lose an additional lot. They did remove the majority of the open space that was in the development, and as well as rerouting the road to actually be on that north boundary. So there's not going to be any homes abutting those northern neighbors to the north. In addition to this, I did talk with the applicant, and in my staff report, I did recommend a DA provision that all the homes, so lots 2 through 8, so this whole lot, this whole side will be restricted to single-story homes. So that is in the DA. The applicant, I did briefly talk with them on that, and seems to be in agreement with that. So I'll go over what they're requesting again, just so you guys have that on the record. So the applicant is requesting, their updated request is a rezone still of the 2.9 acres of the 4.68 acres of land from the R4 zoning district to the R15 zoning district, leaving the remaining 1.78 acres of land as R4. A preliminary plat consisting of 24 building lots, so 21 new lots and 3 existing. So the 3 existing homes will remain on the southern portion of the site. And 7 common lots on the 4.68 acres of land, and a new development agreement to replace the current one. So that is really where we're at tonight. If there's anything else you guys would like me to highlight, I'd be happy to do so, but this is their revision to your guys' direction from the last hearing, and I'll stand for any questions.
Would the applicant like to come forward? Hello.
A little PowerPoint presentation, real quick. I figured since you already heard me do my spiel last month, will keep it really quick and abbreviated and just stress the changes
Okay.
that we made. So on that note, Madam Chair, members of the commission, hello and good evening. For the record, my name is Sabrina Durchie. I am here on behalf of the applicant. My business address is 5179 South Boven Avenue, Boise, Idaho, 83716. And this evening, I am representing our layout of Farrington Heights that Nick so kindly went over with us. So first, let's go back in time. I just want to tell you, go back and remind us how we all got here. So originally, our August 7th hearing, you can see that we had 30 lots. And during that hearing, we were asked to prepare and revise the layout so that we provide a little more usable open space. Now, on the other side of the slide, you can see our December 4th hearing that I presented in front of you. And we had revised the layout. We'd reduced the lot count to 24 or 25, excuse me. And then we included the open space. So the plan, drum roll, as you've already seen, you took out my drum roll and excitement for the new design. But here are our changes that we made. We have 24 single-family homes, 7 common lots. We actually removed one of the additional lots, and then our net density has reduced to 5.12 units per acre. And really quickly, so the changes we made, we relocated the northern road alignment to create a stronger buffer between the project and the northern abutting properties. 2, we removed the previously proposed open space and then redistributed those all on those western side lots. 3, we increased the lot sizes of the western side lots to better accommodate the single-story homes and improve compatibility. And then finally, I did a follow-up and contacted all the neighbors, and they were very pleased with the changes. So with that, we feel like in closing, we're excited about the revisions. We appreciate the time to come back one more time to work with the neighbors to address the changes. And I just want to kind of give a applause and acknowledgement to the applicant for their willingness to listen, come back a third time, all these changes that, as an extra expense to have the layout. And so I just was very impressed with them and their willingness to make a great project that works for everyone. So with that, I will end my presentation. Thank you all for your time and consideration, and respectively ask for an approval to city council so we can get to that next stop. So thank you.
Thanks. Do we have any questions for Sabrina before we start public testimony?
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you all.
Madam Clerk, do we have anybody signed up to testify?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we do. The first person is Donald Flatten. And he does have a presentation to
I
show
should
you.
have one or two attached files if I can. And of course, one of those duplicate what Sabrina just submitted also.
Well, while
Right
she's
now.
getting that, if you can state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, Don Flayton, 1111 North Adkins Avenue. It adjoins the property.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the illustration. This is a PDF, so we don't see the full image of it. If we can actually, oh, that's great if you can reduce it. This is what I submitted after December 4th meeting, and it does coincide largely with some improvements, of course, by the developer. I just did a quick evaluation, but suggestion based on irrigation easement and so forth. Within the context of an R15 zoning, this is a good plan. What I'm addressing today is I just think R15 is inappropriate. It's an R4 neighborhood on all borders. There are problems with R15 that I've enumerated. We could go to another picture image there. I think I have a text image indicating what is. The problem is increased congestion. Parking impact was brought up by 3 people who testified last time. It was never addressed after that. And that hasn't changed. If we look at the site plan, there isn't room really to park on the street within the U shape there. I'm presuming these will be 2-car garages with 2 parking spaces on a driveway in front. If it's like most people, like myself, one of those garage spaces will be used for storing our stuff. Problem is it doesn't leave any room for guests or to guest park when they come to visit. And with 20 or 21 residences, numerous people, it is an issue. Related to that and directly to the R15 zoning, to which I object, increased congestion generally, noise level in the neighborhood will be higher. We have animals, other people have animals, start adding together a circus of animals from different buildings. It just adds up. The overall volume level becomes kind of intolerable and distracting. Increased traffic load on North Adkins Avenue. And there's a decreased privacy inherent with number of structures. So if we were continue with an R4 zoning and appropriate development that way, that would all those things to be under control. That's basically what I had to cover. The other thing I just want to be sure of is the 1-story structures be limited in height to appropriate and matching the neighborhood. And I haven't measured those. We're 16.6. I think some of the neighbors are 18 feet at center line. That's something to consider. And also for the people on the west border where they're 1 stories, external structures placed, they really must be enforced in HOA, keep those at legally set distances from the fence, and height restrictions on those storage buildings and things. People will tend to build them and they do take up space and people tend to jam up against an edge. So those are considerations are the main ones. I do appreciate the effort and the expertise of the developer in revising plans based on our suggestions and requests last time. Very noteworthy, and it obviously is, they put a lot of work into it. But my objection is R15 itself. Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Madam Chair, the next person is Stephanie John.
Hi, if you can state your name and address for the record, that'd be great.
Sure. My name is Stephanie John. I live at 1111 North Adkins Avenue. I will first say I appreciate the developer and his changes. He's obviously willing to play and listen. That is greatly appreciated. A lot of stress has been taken off. I do agree with the plan they have presented. The only thing I am going to ask for is during that development agreement modification that we cap the building sizes. I went around and collected the heights of all the surrounding homes that immediately are affected by this build and found their sizes. They are smaller homes. They were built a long time ago, 2001, things like that. So I understand that. I would like to see the single homes be capped from ground to highest peak at 20 feet and the 2 stories capped at 26 feet. I do feel like that is generous. They are still taller than the homes around them, but they are new builds. And like I said, I really appreciate the modifications they've made. I think we'll hear testimony about parking, which will be an issue. And I do think that there are some heights. I think capping them would help eliminate some of the other concerns that the residents may have. I also collected signatures from people in the area that surround the field that they were going for single family or single story homes throughout the whole thing. You have to give and take. I understand that. They have clearly listened and they are giving and taking, and thus that's why if they do get those 2-story homes in the middle, I'm just asking for a cap that would include not the homes, but also any sheds or any extra things that they might want to put on the houses and things like that. So if we can consider that, like I said, single stories to the 20 feet, double stories to the 26 feet to the highest peak, so ground to highest peak, trying to keep it compatible going around, but also understanding it's a new build. That's all I really have to say.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, the next person is Jack Harp.
Okay.
About that. Jack Harp, 1038 North Atkins, here in Meridian. Appreciate the developers redoing this, but my major concern is you're about to stick about 80+ people in that small area. You take that 80 people times most generally 2 automobiles. Now you've got about 80 automobiles in there. Then you have people who come and visit, come and stay. The infrastructure just won't handle that. And I haven't seen any plans for garages, speed bumps. I see one way, basically one way in and one way out. Pine Street, they're already having more wrecks than they can handle, Locust Grove and Pine. You put all this in there, it's just it'll be a nightmare. But I believe that's on Ada County. That isn't on Meridian. I get that. But like she said, my concern is the height. I've been there for a little over 22 years now. Been pretty much used to looking at the geese and the view and everything. To put 2-story apartments in there, or call them houses, whatever, but yeah, it's gonna be kind of a cultural shock. But like she said, if you can keep the height down and not build them like those ones that are this close together right along the canal there on Pine Street, that's a travesty. My gosh, you can hand your neighbor a cup of sugar and never leave the house. That's lived here all my life. That's a poor way to live. A poor way to live. All you folks on this board, bear with me. How many of you own your own house? Raise your hands, please.
We all live in Meridian.
Okay. You know what blood, sweat, and tears is to own your own home. Most of these will end up being rentals because no one can afford to buy houses anymore. So with that being said, a rental, they don't care if the grass is green or if it's brown. They make a call, they complain to whoever's going to be renting this outfit. They don't care. And what's gonna do is just gonna ruin our property value and basically our way of life across the street. So yes, I'm complaining a little bit, actually a whole lot. But you got to understand, people that live across the street will be looking at this at less than 50 yards away. Plus all the construction, the dirt, and everything that goes with all this. We will not be compensated for none of it. That must be my bill, but anyway, folks, yeah, thanks for your time.
All right, thanks for coming tonight.
Madam Chair, the next person signed up is Rick Saladay.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Rick Saladay. I live at 992 North Stonehenge, Meridian, Idaho. This is directly behind the proposed development. I brought in a couple pictures of my backyard, all my decorations on my fence you guys can enjoy. But this shows the elevation difference from my backyard to that field. That is the retaining wall I put in shortly after I moved in to stop the drainage ditch from pouring into my yard. They used to irrigate that field at one time. If you'll go to the next shot there, please. This is a kind of a shot of the trailers that are parked behind my house. I don't have an objection to that. That's their property. They can put whatever they want to on that property. I've always had a good relationship with the Brocks. I just barely put that fence up 3 years ago, in fact. So I've always enjoyed an open fence to that field. The next photo, that just shows the height difference there. That's sitting, again, showing the difference there. That is approximately 8 to 10 feet off my back fence. So that is approximately what I'm thinking these new houses will be, but a lot higher. So if you'll go there again, it just shows you the height difference from my house to their field. There again, this shows, no offense to people on Adkin Lane, without my fence, you see the rooftops right there across that fence. That's Atkins Lane. Before that, I had a clear view to the mountains. So speaking of view is being destroyed. But that's all right. That is development. I'm good with that. And I, again, will go with everybody else. I appreciate what the developer has done to adjust his plans to address our issues. I don't know if I have any more photos or not there. This one's showing the Brocks home. I don't know if you've ever seen the Brocks home. It's not a home. It's a huge house. But that just shows that's probably 50 yards from my backyard. And in the summertime, they did put some trees there to block the view because they did add a new pool recently. Unfortunately, they built the elevation of that right there where you see those trees. That is where they build an elevation. So when they walk around, I can see them. It's basically their fence and they're walking around here. So I can see over there. But anyhow, again, elevation issues. With the new, and I think that's the last of my pictures there to show my complaint of elevation. But with the new changes they made, I noticed that they moved the open space that was behind my house. It would have kind of eliminated the buildings behind my house. They've now moved all of them over to my house or my side. It looks like they've put a biggest lot right behind me. And I'm kind of concerned about the elevation of that house because I think it looks like the biggest lot on their plan. So anyway, that's all I have to say. I would like somebody to look at you can't tell by just looking at lot sizes, how big the houses are going to be, how the parking is going to be adjusted. So that's some issues that are also brought up. Parking, traffic, that's nothing. So anyhow, thank you, people. Appreciate all your time.
All right, thank you very much.
Madam Chair, the next person signed up is Todd Lakey.
Okay.
The next person is Marley Turner.
Hello, my name is Marilee Turner. I reside at 1345 East Shellbrook Drive, Meridian, Idaho, 83642. My home borders the proposed subdivision of Farrington Heights. The developers have restructured their plans over the course of several months in order to find solutions that would be beneficial and respectful to us as longstanding property owners. We have lived in our home over 20 years. As a development of such proportions will impact many families for decades, including existing homeowners, I truly appreciate the accommodations the developers have made to incorporate their plans and the neighbors' concerns into the existing space. I am very grateful that a proposed compromise currently has the potential to be reached. If we go forward with the plans, a green space buffer will now separate our homes, my home, from the planned house bordering our property, which will allow us to continue using our garden space. A portion of the road will also provide a small amount of separation between our property and the planned lots. The larger lot sizes will now accommodate single-story homes along the proposed boundary, which we have been very concerned about in past hearings. I continue to be concerned about the insufficient intersection at Pine and Locust Grove, and that will continue to be a safety concern, and that concern will expand with time. Also, I would still express hesitation if garages are allowed on the single-story homes, which would put that the garage level or a bonus room at a proposed height difference that would impact our privacy and the use of our yard. If indeed the building lots on the outskirts bordering the existing homes are limited to a single story and single level height restrictions are put in place, that concern would be alleviated. This plan has indeed addressed multiple concerns in a respectful way, and I am very appreciative and supportive of most aspects of the plan.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, the next person is Brian Turner.
Good evening.
Good evening. Brian Turner, 1345 East Shellbrook Drive. And I really want to express my appreciation to the applicant and that team and hearing feedback and working with us. I wish that was done more often than it feels like it is. I currently think the proposed plan is a good one, and I'm in support of it. It would be made great in my eyes if the west side, those homes, there was some of the ambiguity about whether they're two-story or what height they are, was removed. It would become a great plan. And or the use of the clear story or highlight windows in appropriate places. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Madam Chair, we have Bob Flatten Senior.
Junior, my apologies if I skipped it. Hello, my name is Bob Flayton Jr. I live at 11 Adkins Avenue. You guys have heard us speak many times, me in particular, I guess. With that being said, I want to start by saying Mr. Etheridge and his team are a lot more likable, and realistically, they listen a lot better than I would have anticipated at the beginning of this process. With that being said, I mean, our interaction with him has improved. I can't say for anybody else because I'm not them. Anyways, diving right into this, a lot of the absolutely earth-shattering things that we were concerned about in our household have been addressed, and I am extremely thankful for that. With that being said, I made a point a long time ago of saying that it wasn't just about us, but it was about all of our neighbors, and I do still hold true to that. So to give you my God's honest take on it, where we are, I think everything they've done is very beneficial to us and to a lot of the other neighbors. Not all of them. There are still concerns, primarily I'm hearing with just congestion and all, you know, the rezoning and how many people can get into that space. Personally, I agree with that part of it. And also the fact that not all could be single story. And again, realistically, we don't have the crystal ball that makes everything work great for everybody. I wish we did. I would love to make everyone happy. But to reiterate, I think they've done a really good job of helping me, my family, and some of the other families. Ideally, I would love for that to be even across the board. If there was any way that all the neighbors could be pleased and we could keep it in to where it's basically fair for all of them, that would be my ideal take. But anyways, thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it immensely.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, no one else has signed up.
Is there anybody on Zoom tonight?
Madam Chair, no one is on Zoom.
Is there anybody else in chambers that would like to speak before we ask the applicant? Would you like to come up? Hi, if you can state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Rick Bradley. I'm at 1321 East Shellbrook Drive in here in Meridian.
Okay.
I just want to start to say, reiterating, the development team did a fantastic job in listening to our concerns. Last time we were here with this meeting, we made 10 times more progress talking to them out in the lobby than we did anywhere here in the chambers. So I really appreciate their willingness to sit and talk to us. The two things that are really consistent here is mainly the height and the traffic. Last time I was here, I asked you guys if you ever been to Adkins and Pine intersection, and nobody had been. I wonder if any of this, has that changed? Do you guys aware of how small that intersection is? And we're adding all this extra traffic to it? And then the other
We're
thing.
aware of the intersection. Typically, when a public meeting situation, to go to the site is inappropriate for the commission. So,
Well, right, I was just thinking off hours, right?
right, but as
So-
community members of Meridian, I think we're all familiar with the area.
Okay, great. And so obviously that is concern, should probably concern you guys a little bit as well. As far as the heights going, I know that they can put into the CCNRs and ACC stuff about restricting two-story, restricting height, restricting roof pitch. And I think they were willing to add that into that. But when the plan checkers check the plans, they're gonna have to be pretty thorough about that to make sure that they are actually following all the guidelines for the ACCs. And I think if that it was implemented, it would be public notice and we would be able to see as residents that they are withholding to what the developer said, because the builders are gonna do their own thing. They don't really have control over how the sticks go up. But if it's put into the rules, I think that could solve a lot of the issues most likely. And so, I guess that was pretty much my main point is it can be controlled. These concerns of all the residents around can be relieved if we take steps in that direction.
Okay,
So that's kind of what I wanted to say. Thank you.
thank you very much. Anybody else in chambers before we ask the applicant to come back up? Would you like to come back up to, oh, Todd, you're gonna follow up?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, good evening. My name is Todd Lakey, Lakey of Lagos Law 141 East Carlton Avenue here in Meridian, and appreciate the opportunity. I'll be brief. If you have some more technical questions on some of the plat design, we have some of our other team members here. Start out always by thanking staff for their work and their recommendation of approval. Commissioners, as you know, these are often an effort to achieve balance. And as has been described, my clients really have gone the extra mile in this case. I think it started with about 32 lots and, you know, they removed 12 lots. They're relocating things on the property. They're getting rid of the 2 stories that they could have done on the edge in accordance with code. They moved the road. So there's a road to the north along with that green space that goes between 15 and 25 feet. So there's no houses immediately on that boundary to the north. You've got Adkins to the east that they're bringing up to code, widening, including the sidewalk. And then again, Commissioners, they're tucking those 2 stories back into the middle of the project. Your future land use map calls for 5 to 8 dwelling units per acre, and we're at 5.12. So we're well within that range that's provided for in the comprehensive plan. So Commissioners, with the changes, we not only meet code, but we're doing better than code. And that's, again, part of the balance, some give and take, but the R15, there were comments about the R15 zoning. Yes, we're doing R15 zoning on a portion of the property, but our density is not R15. We have 3,000 to 7,000 square foot lots, and in R15 you can get 2. So it's really not R15 other than it allows us to utilize different setbacks and lot sizes. And then with the development agreement, that limits us to what we can do. That's really consistent with that R8 that you have in the area. As was stated, my clients met with the neighbors multiple times. Last time they met with them, it was as described by several of them here. Thank you so much for the changes. We're good. And my clients went forward. We do have a concern with the new building height restrictions that are proposed. Commissioners, we're surrounded by R8, and we have R4 and R15 on this property. There isn't really a nexus. We're complying with code. We are willing to say, okay, we'll do the R15 height restrictions, take the R15 height restrictions and take those R4 height restrictions and spread it across the whole property. So we'll be subject to R4 height restrictions on the whole thing. And we're surrounded again by R8. Commissioners, we also meet the ACHD requirements. There were no issues there. There were some traffic concerns and questions, but as you know, that's their jurisdiction, their expertise, and we're meeting their requirements. So commissioners, as I said, we've gone the extra mile. We're going above and beyond code. We ask that the height restrictions be simply the R4 height restrictions across the property. And we ask that you approve our revised plan that does help provide that balance with the neighbors. With that, I'd ask for your approval. Happy to answer questions myself, or if you have some technical ones for our other experts that are here.
Commissioners, do we have questions for Todd? One of the residents asked about, will there be an HOA for this community? Yes.
Madam Chair, I get a thumbs up. Yes.
Okay.
There will be an HOA.
And so will there be language in there that addresses outbuildings, like if somebody wanted to build a shed? Yes, I'm hearing this.
Also, yes, Madam Chair, for the
Okay,
record.
so it'll be respectful as far as height, and so it won't, okay. And then, that's all I had. Commissioners, do we have questions?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith?
So just for clarity, so you indicated you'd be comfortable with, R4, R8, that height limitation. Is that already in the staff recommendation or staff report, or would we need to amend that?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Smith. So lots 2 through, here, let me pull it up so we can show you. So on that west boundary, lots 2 through 8 are restricted to single story. So R15 allows for structures up to 40 feet measured from the property line. So we actually are changing how we're measuring. It's measured from the property line to the peak of the roof. R4 would have it 35 feet would be the maximum height. So that it would be something that would be definitely your guys' purview. And I would recommend you include that in your motion tonight if that is a way that you guys want to go. That is correct.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any questions?
Madam Chair. Okay.
Commissioner Stoll?
So I'm not sure if this is a question for Mr. Lakey or for Nick. Did the applicant propose on the homes on the western side would be 1 story? Or was that?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Stoll, we are willing to have that restriction. Yes, those lots 2 through 8 to be limited to a single story.
Okay.
What do you anticipate the average square foot of the homes that you're proposing?
Madam Chair, I might have to ask my client
Okay.
for that if you give me just a moment.
Can you come up briefly? Hi, if you could just state your name and address for the record.
My name's Brandon Etheridge, and it's 5175 South Missoula Way, Boise, Idaho.
Thanks.
And to answer your question, Madam Chair, for the average square feet, we want it to be around 1,500, maybe higher to 2,000 square feet if we can get it in there, if we can fit those in the lots.
And are you looking at typically 2-car garages on these?
We have planned it for 2-car garages with the driveway that can support another 2 cars.
Okay, so 4 cars and all,
Yes.
and then your HOA would either limit or allow like a shed in the backyard for lawnmowers and that type of thing?
Absolutely. And we're willing to do a height restriction on that as well.
Okay. And one final question, and it doesn't have to be exact. What kind of price point are you looking at for these homes?
We want to be, our price points, we want to be in the 500,000s and maybe creep it up if we can. We just know that that helps retain the value in the area as well. If we can maintain those price points. So.
Okay. Any other questions for the developer?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Perot?
So on the single stories, what is the height estimate that you expect? I mean, we know what the maximum is, but.
I think that on those single stories, we can be in the 20s. It depends on the pitch of the roof. But we're going to be respectful of that to plan it for the lots because we understand. We had a meeting with the neighbors last week and it was all about height. And we would limit that as much as we can, but it needs to be a nice looking product as well so it maintains its value. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions, Madam Chair?
I think we're good.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Todd. May I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second to close the public hearing on Farrington Heights subdivision. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Rust?
I appreciate the rework that's gone into this. I don't know in my time as a commissioner that I've heard this much positive testimony. So appreciate the engagement of the community and coming out and sharing your opinion after reconvening with the developer. We often get a lot of negative and not a lot of positive. So it was great to see that tonight. I'm in full support of this plan. I really like what they did. If I remember right, at the December 4th meeting, we were trying to haggle over some height restrictions on specific lots. And I think what we've come to here is a really good development. It is going to lead to some increased density. That's the nature of infill. We talk about this with every single infill project. I appreciate the applicant working with the community, with the commission, with city council. I think we've got to a really good product here. I'm in full support.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Perot?
We already closed the public hearing, didn't we? I was hoping the applicant can come back up and address the issues that were presented. Or is that not something we were planning on doing?
We closed the public hearing.
Right.
So did you want me to reopen
Well,
it?
typically the applicant comes back up and my one concern would be whether or not we should hear more about, well, let me put it this way. Should we hear more about street parking or parking in general? Or does the commission feel like that's been addressed?
Todd was representing the applicant on the second part of it. So if you really wanted to hear from Sabrina, we can reopen the public hearing for her to address it.
No, that's okay.
Any other comments?
Madam
Matthew?
Chair.
Yes?
Yeah, as far as the parking, I think with the 2-car garage and the driveway that supports an additional 2, I think it's appropriate. So I don't think we need to discuss it more. Open to conversation, obviously, but I think it's adequate.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith?
Well, there's some times a year where parking, in my neighborhood, there's some 3-car garages and there's still parking issues every once in a while, Super Bowl Sunday or, during the holidays, sometimes that happens. But I think broadly speaking, on a day-to-day standpoint, I'm not overly concerned with the parking. I think to a larger issue or to a larger kind of discussion, I think this is a really good project. I think the only thing that I would probably add to the staff report, and I was mulling this over, but since the applicant kind of suggested it, maybe to give some peace of mind, is restricting the height to be consistent with R4 of all the properties. I know some applicant or some of the public were hoping for a 20-foot height restriction or things like that. I think that's a bit too restrictive, a bit arbitrary. I think I was seeing some numbers on some of the documents of 22-foot, 24-foot. I think I saw 29-foot. So I don't know that that's the right way to go, but I think as a show of goodwill and something that the developer seems content with doing is restricting that to R4. But yeah, I think these are going to be great properties.
Yeah, I agree as well. They are taking on the responsibility of improving Atkins Way and they're putting in the street that'll be, a U shape. They're listening. Is it perfect? No, but a homeowner has a right to sell their property And a developer has a right to develop those properties within the zone. And I will say of my 6 years on this, I haven't seen many developers listen to the community as much as they've listened to you. They have a right to build and a homeowner has a right to sell. So is it perfect? No, but I think when this goes to council, and it will, they will engage more with height restrictions and the development, design that they'll present to council. Anybody want to give me a motion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Russ?
after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to the City Council of file number H-2025-0016 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of January 15th, 2026, with one modification in addition to the single-story lot height single-story restriction on the west boundary to restrict the entire parcel to R4 heights as outlined by the applicant.
Second.
It's
Madam,
been,
Madam Chair, if I may chime in,
yes.
can we put that at 35 feet instead of R4, just so it's clear on the record? Would that be okay?
Yes, works for me.
Okay, do I have a second?
Yep, I second.
It's been moved and second to approve file 2025-0016 Farrington Hills. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is ZOA 2025-003 for building height and drive-through text amendments from the City of Meridian Planning Division. Bill had some handouts. Hopefully everybody's got one to follow along for his presentation.
Looks like the room's clearing out. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Thank you for your patience as I transition to the next item on the agenda this evening. So I am here tonight to talk about some code changes with you. Two topics in particular, one being building heights and the other being drive-through processes. If the commission recalls, I was in front of you in June presenting some revised drive-through standards that we wanted to take forward. The goal at that time was to get more express drive-through establishment standards so that we could approve drive-throughs administratively and try to eliminate the need for the applicant to come before this body to do that conditional use process. We felt like we had it nailed down pretty well, went through a round of changes with the UDC focus group. Ultimately, we got to city council and council said, well, we wanted to expand the process on how we want to look at drive-throughs. So that's kind of step one of tonight's code changes. And the other is discussion of building heights, which you kind of touched on this evening, is how do we apply or measure building heights? So currently, the way the code is structured, anytime when we measure a building height in the zoning code, there are maximum height limits for each zoning district. It's pretty typical throughout the nation. In our code, most of the R zones are 35 feet. You saw tonight, R15 is 40 feet. Even R40 goes up to 65 feet. So some of those zones, they do allow taller buildings, but where we have some flexibility in the code are things like elevator shafts or chimneys. Those can project even taller than the maximum height limitations. And so recently council city staff went before city council and had a discussion with them and decided how would we
change, or how did the council want us to measure residential heights moving forward? Currently, the way it's structured, it defers to the building code and these lists of exceptions that we currently have in code. And council said, no, we want to be more restrictive than the residential code and come up with our own standards. So the zoning code can be more restrictive than a building code. So in this particular instance, on the screen this evening, you can see that first item is how we're getting to that point. We are defining how we're going to measure residential structures moving forward. So technically, anyone comes into the city of Meridian, applies for a residential building permit. Planning will verify kind of that they're from their property line to the top of the building. They'll have to demonstrate that the home does not exceed the maximum height limit of that residential district. So again, if it's an R2, R4, R8, you're looking at maximum height of 35 feet. So anything under that, any of those projections or taller roofs will not be allowed to go forward. It's going to be measured to the peak, and that's been historically different than what the building code does currently. So it's going to be pretty express standards moving forward. The next item on this, and just kind of sticking with that theme of definitions, as you recall, we changed our definitions for drive-throughs. We came up with that tiered approach where we had tiered 1, tier 2, and tier 3, and basically that referenced the intensity of drive-through uses. So we had that in our specific use standards, but we never married that up to the definitions in our code. So that's what the next item does as well. And then touching back on building heights again, I know it's a little disjointed. When I put these tables together, I tried to stick them in order of how they fall in the code. So going back to our maximum building heights here, again, this goes back and reinforces that definition that I just shared with you. So had to change some items in chapter 2 of the code. So basically, it's very explicit. Number 1 there says how we're going to measure it based on that measurement that I just described to you. And then items, the exceptions that are currently in code, we've made that more explicit to say those only apply to non-residential structures and mixed-use buildings. So again, residential, you're from the front of the property line to the very top of the roof, the peak of the roof, the flat point of the roof, whatever it may be. If it's a flat roof, it's to the parapet. If it's a peaked roof, it's going right to the peak of the roof. Again, for non-residential or mixed-use structures, there's some latitude there. And then bouncing back to our drive-through standards, as you're aware, currently the way it worked in code, all drive-throughs come to you as a body. And so in order to follow through on what the council's directive was, I had to go and amend some of the tables in our code. So I had to go back to our commercial zones, remove the term drive-through now, because now that we have a drive-through tiered approach, we went in ahead and added tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 based on the definitions that I shared with you. Based on the direction from City Council, they were comfortable with tiered 1 drive-throughs being approved administratively. Tier 2, they wanted the Planning and Zoning Commission to continue to review all of those regardless if there was a residential district or not next to it. And then council also wanted tier 3s to bypass the Planning and Zoning Commission and go directly to them. So that's why in these tables that I've created here, you can see where you see an A or a C. So conceivably a tiered 1 drive-through can be approved by the director. However, if a tiered 1 is within 300 feet of a residential use or district, it's coming before this body still. So that was not changed by City Council. Tier 2, again, all tier 2s will come to you. And then tier 3s currently as drafted will go to City Council. And again, these tables are married up to do just that based on the council's direction. I also mentioned to you, I don't know if the council wants to provide comment to City Council or not, but some staff members and some certain council members also were concerned about allowing drive-throughs uses in Old Town. They felt in the downtown, it should be more walkable and not more garage or auto oriented. We do have one drive-through in Old Town currently, and that is the Human Bean on Fairview or Cherry, however you look at it, Cherry and Meridian Road. And believe it or not, that's the reason why we changed the code back in 2015 to allow drive-throughs in Old Town, because of that one business. So I don't anticipate us getting a lot of tier 2 or tier 3 drive-throughs in downtown, but the potential is there. So that's certainly, I think I anticipate some conversation with city council as we transition there, but certainly if the commission wants to weigh in on that topic as well, I'm happy to share those comments with council as I present to them. So again, based on some of the commentary that I've given you here, this last code change here in front of you is basically the table that we use to enforce how we process applications or what bodies act on applications. So you can see here, we've added the tier 1 where again, it may be the director. Maybe like we don't need anybody but the director, no recommending body because the director can act on it. Or he may become the recommending body because they're next to a residential use. And then same thing with tier 2. We are the director is the recommending body. You guys are the decision-making body. And of course, tier 3, director is again the recommending body, and city council will become the decision-making body. I know certainly how as the commission is aware, certain applications, for example, like annexations and preliminary plats, typically you guys are a recommending body on those types of applications, and then you forward on a recommendation to city council. Certainly, if that's the prerogative of the Planning and Zoning Commission tonight, if you feel like you also want to act on or review tier 3 drive-throughs, that's certainly within your purview this evening to say, you know, maybe Planning and Zoning can be a recommending body to the city council on tier 3 drive-throughs as well. And that's, again, something that I'm more than happy to take before city council as this transitions to them. Looking at the public record, I did not see any testimony on this item, and I'll go ahead and conclude my presentation, open it up to you for questions.
Quick questions. Do we have any active banks still downtown?
I know a few of them have left. I don't know if
Is
this
First
one is still
Interstate still there?
active.
Does
This
that have a
one might be,
drive-through?
this one across the north of us may be active still, but I
Yeah.
know the one on Idaho has vacated.
Right. So that has a drive-through.
Yeah, different process. That was approved under a different code.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the requirements were at that time.
And I think there's another coffee shop next to Paul's too. Is that considered Old Town? Franklin and King, Main Street and King?
Main Street and King.
Right by
Oh,
Spur-
yes, that's again another grandfathered
Grandfathered
drive-through.
in,
That's
okay.
that's part of an old process, correct?
Gotcha. Okay. Do we have anybody signed up? Nobody's here to sign up. Sir, were you going to comment tonight? Okay. Does anybody else have questions for Bill?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Sandoval?
how are you defining property line? Are you saying the front of the structure by the foundation? Are you saying the actual property line? So if you're on a hill and you have a 20-foot house, but it's 35 feet or it's 36 feet, you can't build it to that height?
So Commissioner Sandoval, if I can get you your question here. So basically, what I would hope is like any plan that we get in, Meridian doesn't have a grading ordinance, so we don't require grading plans or grading permit. So basically, when someone submits a site plan to us, they depict their property lines. If there is topography, like you said, a lot of times, sometimes I think in South Meridian, I haven't seen where the front property line is taller than it's usually taller than the rear because it kind of slopes a little a ways, but sometimes it can be the reverse. But in this case, again, if there was an instance where the front property was higher than the back of the property, we'd still measure the height from that. So the developer or the home builder would have to provide us that and then give us a side profile of how that would work. So we could verify that. So technically, conceivably, the back of the house could be taller than the front of the house because we're measuring it from the front rather than the back.
Thanks for clarifying. I was curious.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we did talk about that quite a bit with the UDC focus group. And everyone kind of, typically your road is your baseline for kind of the elevation of your subdivision. So we felt if we just had a standard requirement from just one property line, but there are instances where conceivably you could take the average of the entire property and determine that height. But I didn't want to overcomplicate the code because we don't really have a lot of topography in Meridian. There are certain pockets of it, but generally it's pretty flat here.
Any other questions before we close the public hearing?
Madam Chair, question for Bill.
Commissioner Stoll?
Folks know me, know that I'm big on processes where I'm kind of trying to figure it out. So in tier one, the director makes a decision. Tier two, the director makes a recommendation to the commission. All other processes we have, the commission makes a recommendation to city council. But in this case, you're talking about the director makes the recommendation to the city council. What's the reason for the difference?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, that was the direction that when I presented the changes to city council, they said they wanted to act on all tier 3 drive-throughs. So, and they didn't want to slow down the process. So in our UDC, there's certain, the code is, the way it's structured is that the council has given the commission the authority to act on conditional use permits. That's within your purview. That's why you see the director to the planning from us as a recommending body to you for currently all conditional use permits. But during my discussions with city council, they wanted to be mindful of the time it takes to get applications to them. So again, it would be no different than a development agreement modification. Technically, if someone, there's certain applications that you don't even see because they go directly to city council. So that was the rationale by the city council. They said, well, we have other applications that don't require recommendation from Planning and Zoning Commission. So let's make tier 3s come to us just like a short plat or a development agreement modification.
Okay, so
that's at least, I don't think they wanted to cut you out of the process. They were just thinking of it that way. We have other things that don't do it. So is there a way we can do that?
But there are other applications or
Yeah,
processes.
yeah, there are other applications and processes that do it, correct.
So when it came to in and out, we were supposed to decide on the conditional use permit, right?
I missed that.
And you did.
And we did, and they appealed it, which is why it went to city council. So what the council is suggesting is that anything with two lanes and escape lane would go directly to council. That's what he's proposing.
Madam Chair.
Commissioners.
Mr. Sarver, we're still in public testimony. aren't we?
We're still in public testimony. Are we ready to close the public testimony? Any other questions for Bill? May I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second to close the public hearing for ZOA 2025-0003. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. My thoughts on this, we talked about this in our prep meeting a little bit. I am not in favor of conditional use permits tier 3 to go directly to council. I think they should still come to planning and zoning as to be vetted. If I am a chain that's going to be, or whoever is going to open double drive-throughs with an escape lane, coming to planning and zoning gives them a chance to be able to work out some of the details of their application before they go to city council. Because when they go to city council, it's either yes or no. When they come to planning and zoning, it's yes or no, but then they can appeal it and it still goes to city council. So I think there's not a developer here to say yes or no on it, but I just think it's not in their best interest because it probably limits it takes some time, maybe take a week or two off their time, but it may change the whole outcome of their presentation. Because there's many times where we'll make recommendations saying, before you go to council, do this. Or if you're going to appeal, do this before you walk into council. And if they go straight to council, then that wouldn't do it. And I hear time and time again from the mayor and other council members is that they appreciate our feedback. And so maybe still having council be the deciding factor, but us being the recommended body for tier 3 would still be helpful. Tier 2 stays with us, which is 1 lane, 1 drive-through, and then anything that is close to proximity to residentials will still come through us as well, including tier 1 if it abuts residential. But otherwise, if it's a pharmacy that's a standalone or a bank that's a standalone that doesn't really affect those things, then it could be administrative at tier 1. Does that make sense? So those are my thoughts. You know, I would like to see tier 3 still come through planning and zoning. We would be the recommending body to council. Any other thoughts on this?
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, I agree with you. And like you said, we talked about this in our prep meeting. I think the only instances where I could imagine there being significant delays for us having heard, you know, a tier 3 seems like it might be one where it's warranted, where there's a continuance because of some issue or things like that. I guess, you know, if there's a lack of a quorum or something, you know, I get the desire to speed things up. And I'm not a developer, so I don't have insight into the time value of money, you know, in their specific industry. But I don't know that this, in my opinion, slows things down and not like too much to justify it. I'm not, at the end of the day, if council wants to just take it head on, you know, I trust our city council. I think we have a really good council, so I'm not losing sleep over it. But I think that's something that I think we're here to help them and do some fact finding for them and some analysis for them. And I think that's, frankly, DA mods, I know it's more of a negotiation with the city. So there's some more kind of executive function there, but I'd like to look at DA mods too, you know, but that's a different conversation. But yeah, I think I'm in support of that. And then I also, again, just to give my personal thoughts, I don't know if we want to open this can of worms, but with Old Town restricting drive-throughs, I would be okay with that. Yeah, the whole point is to have a walkable space. Again, it's not something that I particularly lose sleep for because I can't think of too many areas where someone's going to go slap in a big drive-through. But you never know. So I think that I'm generally in favor of that, specifically just because it's Old Town. It's a unique district.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Rest?
I don't have a strong opinion on this, but I'd actually take the other side. If you think back to the In-N-Out application, how many people did In-N-Out have here? That was a pretty big application, and they're going to bring all those people back to council. And so I think there's a time element, but there's also a cost element for developers. And these tier 3s are going to generate a lot of public testimony. They're generally going to be more controversial. They're probably always going to end up at council. And I think the developers would generally rather get one shot, but know that it's an up or down than the uncertainty of having to bring all those experts to multiple meetings. They're going to have to do that if we bring tier 3s in front of us. And I think that more than anything, both adds cost and time. So again, I'm not getting too worked up either way, but I can see where council's coming from, and I actually agree with their take on it.
Yeah, I mean, those applications are far and few between, although I did read today
Dunkin' Donuts.
Dunkin's bringing 20 into the Treasure Valley. So although my limited experience of Dunkin', it's just typically not 2 plus an escape. It's 1 and done.
You guys are going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, I don't drink coffee, so you can bring as many as you want in here. But
Madam Chair.
But yeah, I understand your point as well. But right now, conditional use permits come for us anyway. So that procedure doesn't change too much. Commissioner Pearl?
Thank you. I agree with Commissioner Rust. When council has needed more information from an applicant on a drive-through, they end up continuing it anyway. So, at some point you're doing 3 hearings. And so if council, typically when council continues, that applicant is brought back faster than if they were to come to the commission and then go to council. So if we're talking about timeframes, if council needs more information, they'll continue it. It'll be back in 4 weeks. It will still make for a faster process. So I'm in agreement that I would be satisfied if it went directly to council. It ends up there most of the time anyway.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith?
I think after hearing that, I think, and chewing on it some more, I think, I guess I'm a little bit on the fence now, because now I'm
It's
thinking
okay,
about
that's why
it
we're
is,
talking about it.
you know, we're essentially saying, city council, let us do the extra work for you. And they're saying, hey, no, we're okay doing the extra work. In my mind, part of it was like, well, we could take some of that load off of their plate, but if they're content to, take that on themselves, then I'm okay with, like, I'm not, again, losing sleep over it. And it wasn't in the first place, but maybe I'm seeing more and more of that kind of opposite view. So realistically, I'd be content either way. I think it's dealer's choice for me now.
Okay, that's fine. That's why we're talking about it.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Commissioner Stoll?
So I wasn't, I'll play the newbie card still. I wasn't here for the in and out one, so I don't know the process. Is there an aspect of the application that we're still gonna get and have to review? So we're not gonna see the application at all.
What should have happened with in and out, it should have ended here. Right here, because we approved conditional use permits. The only reason it went to council is because we denied it and they appealed it. Right? Because otherwise, conditional use permits, regardless of the number of drive-throughs, escape lanes, Raising Cane's, Chick-fil-A, the whole 9 yards, ends in planning and zoning. What the council is suggesting is that if it's a really big thing, then maybe the one-stop shop isn't planning and zoning, it's council. Because if we end up denying it for whatever reason, that's when it goes to council because they'll appeal it.
So, but the trigger is it's got a drive through with it. That's in this case that we're talking about. If it's a drive through,
Yes.
then it's going directly to the council.
We're looking at, high volume, congestion, in a area that's not contested, because, I mean, it could be so let's take 10 Mile Crossing, the new Alquist part on the west side, I forget what it's called. They're gonna be developing, say they decide to put an in and out over there, right? So what they're suggesting is that instead of presenting to planning and zoning, it's, even though it's just bare land right now, they're gonna have 2 lanes plus an escape lane that would automatically skip planning and zoning and just go to council for their presentation.
Okay.
Because most likely there's gonna be businesses 300 feet on either side of them.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure.
That makes sense?
Yeah, it makes, well, yes and no. So not sure how where I fall on that one. In terms of drive-throughs in Old Town, I lean towards not having them. If we can, just to promote the walkability of the downtown area.
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Sandoval?
Yeah, thinking about the community, everyone is gonna give up some people are gonna get some. I don't see any reasonable argument to not have something go through 2 small bodies with diverse populations to make a good decision for the community in the long run. So my opinion is, yes, it should absolutely come here. Let's talk about it. Let's vet it. Let's kick it up the line or deny it. If they want to appeal, that's their decision. Not every single application is gonna appeal. Right? Yes, some highly contested ones, maybe, we've been there. But I don't see any reasonable argument to say, why wouldn't it be better for the community to have 2 groups look at something from different perspectives, even if it may mean a 2 or 3 week delay for one stakeholder? It doesn't make sense to me. So that's why I'm in favor of what you spoke to.
Right, and we're only talking about conditional use permits. I mean, annexations, preliminary plats, development agreements, all those still go to council anyway. We're really talking about just businesses that are gonna have a drive-through, double stacked, escape lane within 300 feet. That's the only thing we're talking about, correct, Bill?
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the commission, I also just want to reiterate that, you could get a tier 2 and deny it or approve it, and someone could still appeal that and go to city council. That
Right.
process is not changing. It's still in the code. So it's just, like I said, it's like I just said, it's just going right to city council. It's just like another application. But again, it's certainly within your purview to modify that or change that. On the Old Town topic, certainly if the commission feels comfortable with tier 1, you can certainly say we're good with tier 1 and maybe strike tier 2 or tier 3 from being in Old Town. So I think everything's on the table tonight. But I agree with you. I don't see a tier 3 happening in downtown, but I could see a tier 1. I mean, we have Blimpies is up on the street. They're not Old Town, but they're commercial, but their land use designation is Old Town. So conceivably, someone could rezone it to something else in the future. But again, it's full gamut. I mean, ultimately, the city council will weigh in on your comments, and I'll share that with them as I go and transition and present to them. But certainly, I don't profess to have one size fits all here tonight. I do appreciate everyone's position on it. It's just how you look at things, and I like the discussion tonight. I like the perspective of Commissioner Russ, because I didn't think of it from that angle, but it's very logical. And then I see Commissioner Sandoval's take on it too. So it's like it's all whatever we want it to be for the community. I think that's the key here, is what is the best thing we want to do for the community. And I truly believe this body and the city council has that. We all do. We want to make sure we get it right. It's citywide. It's code changes. It's important. So
Right.
I do appreciate the discussion.
So just to clarify, Old Town is Fairview to Franklin, from Meridian to what, 3rd or 2.5? How far east does Old Town go? Just,
Yeah,
but I mean, it's
it goes to
basically,
Franklin, 3rd, and I don't know how far. It's zigzag. It's an odd designation. So it's
Okay.
a weird configuration. It's not just a perfect rectangle.
Gotcha.
falling. It jogs throughout downtown, but it's pretty substantial,
right.
larger than what you think it is. So.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Rust?
I apologize. This was probably explained and I just missed it, but what function are we serving here with these proposals that are before us? Like, are we voting on these?
We're
Are we-
recommending to.
We're
city-
recommending?
Yes. city
Yeah, okay.
council.
So we're not able to do anything. We're just making recommendations.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we can accept the way we would have a motion, the way Bill has it framed, or based on the discussion tonight, we can adjust it.
And so if we were to, let's just say we said we want a say on tier 3s, and then city council could say, we actually are going to go with our original intent. It wouldn't have to come back to us. They just decide.
Correct.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Pearl?
just to clarify, Bill, the recommendation to limit drive-throughs in Old Town, that came from council? Or where did that come from?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, not necessarily. I know some council members were, so when I had presented, that had come up as a topic. And I presented this tiered approach where we were discussing the changes to the specific use standards. And some council members said they didn't want it, but they were outvoted. So I left it in here knowing that it would become another topic of discussion when I get in front of them. So I know there's some council members that want to talk on that topic. So that's why I'm curious. I'm sharing it with you because I'm curious how the commission feels about it.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Pearl?
Personally, I'd like to still see that done on a case-by-case basis. I mean, I understand the concern about drive-throughs in Old Town. There are a few areas of Old Town that are still could accommodate them. I mean, Old Town, we've spent a lot of time sort of loosening restrictions on Old Town in terms of height and uses. And so it seems funny to me to then create a restriction when there's been a lot of effort to expand the options in Old Town. So that's just my thought on it. It's not a hill I'm going to die on, but.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, what happens, 5 years from now and Old Town is built out in a different way and we're in a life situation where people aren't dining in restaurants and they need to drive through, and then all of a sudden the businesses that have established themselves, cannot have that opportunity or won't move into that area for that very reason. I think I agree with Commissioner Perot is that we should evaluate those on a case-by-case basis because there's some very skinny parts of Old Town, but there's some wider spots too that could accommodate them. And to blanket it across, you might be taking an applicant and turning them away from developing commercial opportunity downtown because of that restriction. I can't imagine what it would be at this point in time, but if us saying no, but not having that crystal ball of what it looks like, 5 years from now, I hate to be in that position where we would have to say, no, you can't come here.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith?
If I could make, I guess a pitch, if I were trying to die on this hill, and this is not my, I'm not playing devil's advocate quite, but this is an exaggeration of where I'm at, is, you look at places that are intended to be built to be, pedestrian primary usage. You think post-COVID, Main Street in Boise, for example, how that's built out to be, really in that downtown core. There's very limited, I don't know that I've seen a car drive down that since those barriers went up in 2020. So I think there are some areas where you can limit, and if you can steer the design toward something that if we're trying to create a very walkable location in Meridian, and if that's the goal that we have, I think there is some value in not doing it case by case, but trying to establish some bright line or some bounds. And I think if you are trying to make it a pretty walkable thing, I think there's a case for simultaneously loosening height restrictions to allow more density per square foot or per square mile, while imposing greater controls on automotive traffic specifically. So yeah, I guess I see the appeal, looking also again at the size of a tier 1 or something like that. But again, if I could wave my wand, if I had a crystal ball that one of the people come in earlier was talking about, I think I'd probably limit it to tier 1. I think I would like that. Again, that doesn't fully restrict, automotive usage, but kind of tries to steer the development toward what we're trying to do. I know there's been cases of, alternate compliance or things like that. And I think there are methods to, I think, get around that, if you will, but it seems like that puts the default into, nothing, you could have a small drive-through, but don't get crazy. So there's that. One other thing that I'll say as for the tier 3s, and that chain, on whether we see it, as a recommending body, I'm fine either way, but I really do want to actually comment. I do like that it is going to city council by default. I think as the elected body, if there's anything is large enough and sufficient enough and impactful enough to stir up that kind of attendance that usually comes with the tier 3s, it should go to the elected body as the deciding vote, not some volunteers who have the honor of serving on a wonderful appointment. But there's an accountability structure there. And I think sometimes I wonder if, like, on a CUP, if we approve something that council would have denied,
Right.
Especially something the size of In-N-Out.
Yeah.
And maybe no one in the audience knows, thinks to try to appeal it from the other side. That kind of gives me some concern. So I actually like that it is by default going to city council. I will say that.
Okay, they can take the heat. That's fine. Anybody want to try a motion? No?
Yeah, I'll take a stab.
Yeah?
Yeah.
One more for the road?
One more, 2 for the show.
Okay.
After hearing staff and public testimony, I move that we recommend the changes to is it the UDC? Is that what we're saying this is? I recommend that we recommend approval of the changes as laid out by the staff in this table with no modifications. And no further comment on the potential drive-through modification to the downtown core.
Okay. Do I have a second? Kurt with no second, that motion dies. Is that what happens?
Chair, without a second, so the motion dies. I'll use Commissioner Rusher. So, Madam Chair, since there was no second, the motion dies. You can ask your fellow commissioners for an alternate motion if you like.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair,
Commissioner Stoll?
after considering all staff, applicants, public testimony, I move to recommend approval to the city council of file number ZOA 2025-0003 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of January 15th, 2026, with the following modifications. Tier 2 applications for drive-throughs, Tier 3 applications for drive-throughs. Recommending body would be the Planning and Zoning Commission. The deciding body would be the City Council. And that's it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve file ZOA 2025-003 with tier 3 going through planning and zoning for recommendation with final decision going to city council. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
So it's 2-3, and I will say aye as well. So that's 4 and 2, motion passes. Couple more things before we leave for this evening. Tonight is Commissioner Rust's last meeting. And so we appreciate your time on the commission. Thank you very much for your service. We will miss your South Side perspective.
Thank you. I enjoyed serving with you all.
Yes, thank you. And item 5 on the agenda is we are going to vote on a chair and a vice chair for the 2026 calendar year.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize. It was a bad time to grab a lifesaver. I do want to, I know that the bylaws by default nominate the sitting vice chair as a candidate for chair. I'd like to decline that default nomination and in place nominate you for reelection. For chair.
For chair, and you stay as vice chair?
I will not make a nomination for vice chair.
So.
I would love to serve, but I don't want to, make that.
All right, so then I will nominate Commissioner Smith for vice chair. Is there anybody on the floor that would like these positions? Kurt, do we vote? Yes. So I would like a motion for Commissioner Smith to retain as vice chair and myself, Commissioner Lorcher, as chair for the 2026 calendar year.
Madam Chair, I move to retain the existing officers from the 2025 commission for the 2026 commission.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second to keep Commissioner Smith as vice chair and myself, Commissioner Lorcher, as chair. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. I will take one more motion.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Rust,
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
it's been moved and second that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
I almost stole that from you on accident.